For my library project, I chose to explore the role the internet plays in reference departments within public libraries. The library I chose is a fairly large public library in Metro Detroit that services a large number of people both within the community as well as students who tend to frequent the institution after school. Some of the resources the library offers include kid-friendly reading spaces, private meeting rooms, and an event space where concerts, book signings, lectures, and movie nights are held. There are two reference desks, one being on the reference fiction section on the second floor and the reference nonfiction materials on the third floor. There are 2 to 3 reference librarians on each floor, as well as library science interns who also work at the reference desk, mostly during the evening shift when it is not super busy like it tends to be during the day. For the observation portion of the assignment, I visited the library on a Monday evening from 4 to close and on a Saturday morning. The library was pretty busy on the Monday I went because it was around the time the students were coming in after school and parents were dropping off their kids to do homework. The computer labs were full to capacity, as well as the computer behind the reference desk. The reference desk, however, was not as busy. There were a few people who came up to ask questions, all of which were answered by the interns at the reference desk, and for the most part, they used the internet to find the answers. I interviewed the head reference librarian for the library, who was very nice and explained to me the various ways in which the internet has helped to increase the level of service the library gives to its patrons. She explained that it is much easier to find answers now because of databases and Google. Before, they had to pile through all sorts of books, and they really had to know where to go and what to do with the sources. Now it's become quicker to answer questions, and it's been a greater change for the better. During my observation portion, I could tell that the computer labs were a big hit with people and further showcased how important the internet is to libraries. The head reference librarian told me that about 300 to 400 people a day use the computers in the building. There are approximately 120 computers to use, with a limit of 2 hours per person. The library is open 8 hours a day, so that gives a turnaround of 4 people per day per computer. Since there is not a lack of computers available for patrons, that has to a degree lowered the amount of people who visit the reference desk with questions. However, the librarian told me they still get a fair amount of people who ask questions, particularly about class assignments and finding journal articles. Another thing I noticed during my observation on a Saturday morning was that even though the reference desk got very little questions, there were quite a few people who approached the IT desk with questions relating to how to use the computers. This made me wonder if the IT desk has become the new reference area for patrons, since many of their questions were more technical and not general reference questions, which librarians usually get. When I asked the head reference librarian about it, she said that since she has been there, she has noticed they get a lot less reference questions due to the internet. But they often get students coming in asking for information about a certain subject because they couldn't find information online, and they have to show them how to find them. It's deeper things the reference librarians do now, like showing people how to start businesses. This goes to show that the internet has not driven a wedge between in-person communication between reference librarians and patrons. In the past, reference librarians rely heavily on the print materials such as almanacs, dictionaries, indexes, and maps to answer patron questions. With the development of online services, reference librarians have extended their domain to include assistance to patrons in conducting web-based searches. Generally, their advantage has been their familiarity with basic online services and awareness of more specialized services such as those provided by the Internal Revenue Service, LexisNexis, or financial databases available only by subscription. Online search engines such as Google and library databases now control the way that a lot of reference departments answer questions. It saves time and allows the librarians to answer questions much faster, which is an advantage the head reference librarian mentioned during my interview with her. A majority of libraries also use virtual chat in order to reach their patrons remotely, including the public library. Although this process seems to have a faster turnaround than email and in-person reference, a significant number still seem content to get their answers emailed to them a day or so later. However, while the internet is a great tool for the reference department to use to assist patrons, it can also be an issue of reliability since in many cases it is the primary source for answering questions. Those who argue that the reliability of online sources is questionable are typically referring to web engines like Google and Wikipedia entries, both which have plenty to do with the library's reference services. These two sources are often used in lieu of print fact-finding sources such as atlases, subject or bibliography, dictionaries, and specialized sources. For questions of fact, Google is a convenient and reliable enough source for most queries. Yet the authority of results yielded by Google search is not always detectable, and is sometimes intentionally obscured, so the librarian must vet results carefully and select the most reliable sources when providing ready reference to patrons. When it comes to using Google or other search engines for reference questions, the head librarian says that her staff makes sure their answers come from reliable sources. Using government or nonprofit organization sites tend to be more reliable than always using general sites. As the internet has become a primary reference for many libraries, the need for reference services, however, has not become obsolete or even close to being so. Reference librarians have learned to utilize the best of their abilities and incorporate it into their daily method of providing answers to general reference questions. Various search strategies have only made the role of reference librarians more in-depth as reference questions have become more detailed. Search engines such as Google and Bing will always be questioned in terms of their reliability and authoritativeness. Therefore, it is the job of the reference librarian to find the most accurate answers for their customers and to verify that the answers are correct.